There's been no shortage of reasons to protest in the last few years, from 2011's Occupy movement right up to the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests. People have been fighting for justice nearly constantly, and celebs are no different. These are the stars who were arrested while protesting. Disney Channel star Cole Sprouse found himself in trouble with the law in 2020 while participating in a Black Lives Matter protest sparked by the death of George Floyd. On June 1st, the Riverdale actor took to Instagram to write, "A group of peaceful protesters, myself included, were arrested yesterday in Santa Monica. I was detained when standing in solidarity, as were many of the final vanguard within Santa Monica." He added, "We were given the option to leave and were informed that if we did not retreat, we would be arrested. When many did turn to leave, we found another line of police officers blocking our route, at which point they started zip-tying us." While Sprouse had reason to be rattled by his experience, he made sure to note, "It needs to be stated that as a straight white man and a public figure, the institutional consequences of my detainment are nothing in comparison to others within the movement." Lucy Lawless may have saved the world as Xena, the warrior princess, but in 2012, the actress was involved in another kind of action. The star was arrested along with 6 Greenpeace New Zealand activists for boarding a Shell-owned oil drilling ship to prevent it from leaving port.
We're getting the banner out for Greenpeace Save the Arctic. The cops are on their way to arrest us, but we're standing firm.
As part of the protest, the activists spent 77 hours sitting atop its 175-foot drilling tower. Charged with burglary, Lawless released a seemingly unapologetic statement, saying, "This chapter has ended, but the story of the battle to save the Arctic has just begun." The star also shared an encouraging note for anyone who supported the cause, adding, "7 of us climbed up that drill ship to stop Arctic drilling, but 133,000 of us came down." This referred to the 133,000 people who had overloaded Shell's computer server by sending protest emails to the company simultaneously. Amy Schumer found herself in a pretty serious situation when she was arrested at the Hart Senate office building in Washington, D.C., while protesting the confirmation of then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Schumer showed up wearing a shirt that referenced the Equal Rights Amendment and carrying a sign supporting Anita Hill, the woman who testified to Congress about being sexually harassed by Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas in 1991. According to People magazine, a police officer asked Schumer whether she wanted to be arrested, to which the actor declared that she did. News This Second also took to Twitter to share a video where one police officer approached Schumer and many other protesters. Although it's hard to see how many people are in the area with the star, Capitol Police said they arrested 302 people during the demonstrations. Despite the efforts of Schumer and her fellow protesters, however, Kavanaugh was sworn in as a Supreme Court justice that same month. Amy Schumer wasn't the only celebrity who was arrested while protesting Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination. In October 2018, model and actress Emily Ratajkowski also attended the protest at Washington, D.C.'s Hart Senate office building. And just like Schumer, Ratajkowski was among the hundreds of demonstrators detained by police at the activism-focused event. In an Instagram post, Ratajkowski explained, "Today I was arrested protesting the Supreme Court nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, a man who has been accused by multiple women of sexual assault. Men who hurt women can no longer be placed in positions of power." Ratajkowski continued her caption by writing, "Kavanaugh's confirmation as a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States is a message to women in this country that they do not matter. I demand a government that acknowledges, respects, and supports women as much as it does men." Danny Glover may have made a name for himself as a hard-boiled cop, but in 2010, he found himself on the other side of the legal system. The star and 11 others were arrested during a labor union protest at the Maryland headquarters of Sodexo, a French food service company. The crowd of 300 who were supporting the Service Employees International Union were protesting what they described as Sodexo's unfair and illegal treatment of workers. Montgomery County Police spokesman Captain Paul Starks claimed that Glover and others stepped past yellow police tape and were asked to step back 3 times at Sodexo's headquarters. When they refused, Stark says that a number of officers arrested them. They were given citations for trespassing and faced a $1,000 fine or 90 days in jail. Afterward, Glover tweeted, "I'm fine. Andy Stern, the former president of the Service Employees International Union, myself, and the organization want to thank you for all your support." Back in November 1996, Woody Harrelson and a group of environmental activists were arrested after scaling the Golden Gate Bridge in a protest to save an entire 60,000-acre ancient redwood grove in Northern California. At around 9 a.m., the actor and approximately 8 other protesters stormed the bridge and hung a 70-foot by 35-foot banner that spread out above the traffic lanes. It read, "Hurwitz, aren't redwoods more precious than gold?" This message was directed at Texas businessman Charles Hurwitz, whose Pacific Lumber Company owned the Headwaters Forest Complex in Humboldt County. The incident caused an all-day traffic jam that delayed a number of motorists, cyclists, and hikers, and although Harrelson claimed that wasn't his intent, he did assert that he wanted anyone passing to take the messages on the protesters' banners home with them. Apparently, before he came down from his perch on the bridge, Harrelson declared over the phone, "I shamelessly and proudly call myself a tree hugger." Following the incident, Harrelson spoke out after being arraigned, saying, "I'll take all the heat that's thrown in my direction. What we did was right." In the end, the actor was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of trespassing. Getting arrested is nothing new for Jane Fonda. It's been happening to the actress since the 70s, beginning when the star spent a night in jail on trumped-up charges of drug smuggling. Later, an officer told her that the orders for her arrest came straight from the Nixon White House. Frustrated by her vocal anti-Vietnam War activism, the FBI and CIA had been surveilling her for months. More recently, Fonda has been arrested at her famous climate change protests.
I've been a climate activist for a long time, but it's different now. It's far more urgent. So how do I do more?
While she's faced multiple arrests during her recent demonstrations, however, she's certainly not alone. Along with welcoming any supporters who want to show up, Fonda has been joined by plenty of other stars who have also been arrested at the events. It's a very long list indeed, but the most prolific of her fellow protesters include Lily Tomlin, Martin Sheen, Gloria Steinem, Ted Danson, and Joaquin Phoenix. In 2002, actress Cynthia Nixon found herself facing trouble with the law when she was arrested at a school protest. The star was arrested outside City Hall in Lower Manhattan during a choreographed protest to demand better funding for public schools. At the time, the New York Daily News ran a photo that showed a bemused-looking Nixon with her hands outstretched in anticipation of being cuffed by the police. Subsequently, Nixon did not resist arrest. After being released, the star told Newsday, "I feel good. I feel it's the right thing to do." However, the star's fight for education didn't end there. In 2018, Nixon went on to seek the Democratic nomination for New York governor and focused on education during her campaign. While that didn't work out for her, she told Time magazine a year after her campaign that she doesn't regret running, saying, "I ran to win, I hoped to win, but at the end of the day, I knew the most important thing about my running was to shed light on these issues." Susan Sarandon is famed for her strong political views, and in 1999, she was among 219 people arrested at New York's police headquarters after taking part in civil disobedience protests over the police shooting of Amadou Diallo, an unarmed African immigrant. In total, over 800 people were arrested for their symbolic acts of civil disobedience. The protests had spanned weeks and involved, among others, actors Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis, former Mayor David Dinkins, NAACP President Kweisi Mfume, and a number of congressmen and other politicians. The Oscar-winning actress stated, "If we're not here today, then we're saying that what happened is acceptable and normal. I think it's time we focus on this issue, and racial profiling is not acceptable. I don't think we want to be made safe at the expense of our civil liberties." But that wasn't the only time that the actress found herself in trouble with the law during a protest. In 2018, Sarandon was arrested again, this time for protesting Trump's immigration policy. In a statement, the star explained, "I was moved by the passionate, committed response to ending the separation of families seeking asylum and the incarceration of children. This is a moral, not political question, and I'm proud to have stood with the hundreds of women to say that we do not accept this. Unite families and abolish ICE." Daryl Hannah was arrested in 2011, along with a number of mothers, grandmothers, and school teachers during a sit-in in front of the White House to protest a massive expansion of a pipeline carrying oil from Alberta, Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. The star later explained, "I do believe we are in a time of crisis for so many things, and in times of crisis, you have to get engaged in the process. You have to walk your talk." That time around, Hannah paid a fine and was released, but that apparently wasn't enough to stop her from protesting. That's why she was arrested a second time in Texas, while again protesting the establishment of an oil pipeline. This occasion resulted in charges of criminal trespass and resisting arrest, meaning that she paid a $1,000 and a $3,000 bond, respectively. With social media making it easier than ever to keep people updated and connected, Facebook users were able to watch as Shailene Woodley live-streamed her arrest during a 2016 protest against the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline in Bismarck, North Dakota. Following her detention, a representative for the Big Little Lies actress provided a statement saying, "Shailene Woodley has been released from the Morton County Jail in North Dakota. She appreciates the outpouring of support, not only for her, but more importantly, for the continued fight against the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline." Woodley had been arrested for criminal trespassing and engaging in a riot. Some 40,000 people watched on Facebook Live as her hands were zip-tied behind her back. Later, she elaborated to Marie Claire on how she had felt whilst spending time in jail. Woodley said, "When you're in a jail cell and they shut that door, you realize no one can save you. If there's a fire and they decide not to open the door, you'll die. You are a caged animal." George Clooney made his protest a family affair in March 2012 when he was arrested alongside his dad, journalist Nick Clooney, for participating in a staged protest outside the Sudanese embassy in Washington, D.C. The event had been organized to bring attention to that country's president, Omar al-Bashir, provoking a crisis with his blockade of humanitarian aid. In an earlier interview, the actor had explained that if action wasn't taken in 3 or 4 months, then a humanitarian disaster was likely to unfold.
Immediately, we need humanitarian aid to be allowed into the Sudan before it becomes the worst humanitarian crisis in the world.
After being booked and released, the younger Clooney met with the press in order to reiterate the importance of ending the starvation crisis. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite celebs are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.